Chang. I'm the son, and I'm here to actually read a letter from Calvin Poon. There were, my sister Amy talked about the international students, and especially those overseas Chinese students. And there were basically 4 families. Rex Stan and his family came in the late 60s. We had Calvin Poon, which is also part of that group, plus Ben Fong, who's with us today, and someone who isn't with us, David Chow. I think those 4 kind of families, plus my parents, were very close and supported each other for many, many years. So this is from Calvin Poon, and he writes it almost as if he's writing to my father. How I remember Huie Chang. Huie, you're the most gentle person I've ever met in my life. I made this statement with a strong conviction. By gentle, I mean more than just kind and considerate and amiable. You treat your family members, colleagues, friends, and students with due respect. In the span of 40 years that I've known you, I've never heard you say a negative statement about anyone. You tend to put aside injustice, unpleasant situations facing you. Unfazed by trouble and obstacles in life, you carry on your daily life calmly. Your tendency and ability in dwelling on the positive instead of the negative has never ceased to amaze me. People often seek help from you, and without hesitation, you offer your hand and your best of your ability. I came to URI in 1965. Many faculty members and students of Chinese descent also came, both then and in the following years. As a senior faculty member, Huie, you served as a living example of what a good university professor should be teaching and in research work. You and Lucy kindly took the role of advisor to help every newcomer in academia, as well as domestic affairs. This had a calming effect on all of us who were jittery in the new environment. You and Lucy invited us to your home, numerous occasions for friendly gatherings. I remember one occasion when we were invited for a picnic. Some of the students brought baseball equipment and started playing in the front lawn, in the street in front of your house. You realized the danger of having the baseball sailing through the front window of the house and the neighbor's house, but you did not stop them from having fun at the moment. You and I nervously guarding the windows as the disaster happened. After the first close calls, I ran out and suggested that the students stop playing. You thanked everyone, quickly diverted their attentions to other games. To help us newcomers to relax in the intense academic world, Huie, you showed us how to catch blue crabs in Narragansett Bay, digging clams in the low tide, and collecting abandoned potatoes in fields that farmers had completely finished their harvesting. You and your back problems could not have enjoyed these activities, but were willing to make an effort in helping others have fun. I've never forgotten one instance when one student was screaming far more in fear than in pain when a crab pinched his finger in the claw. All of us were laughing while you came in and dislodged the claw from his finger. For many of us, after our retirement, we came back to URI. Maria and I made annual trips to URI. We often had dinners together, and Huie and Lucy and the rest of us played bridge thereafter. We had a wonderful time reminiscing the good old days with friends in Rhode Island. As always, Huie had nothing but praises for his friends, as well as his children and grandchildren. In my eyes, his world was all peaceful and full of blessings. He was a perfect husband, perfect father, the grandfather, the perfect professor, the perfect colleague, and a perfect friend. But above all, a perfect gentleman. Huie made this world a better place to live. And after a wonderful world, it would be for everyone if everyone were like you. Thank you.
I now invite people, if they have anything to say, this is the time to do so.
Please, without a doubt, the kindest man I ever known.
Huie was certainly one of my very best friends. I do not play bridge with him every week on Wednesday, and I've never forgiven him, nor Lucy, for being such a good bridge player. One could not ask for a better friend. Thoughtful, kind, loving, gentle, everything anyone could say would describe you. May God bless him and his family.
I will tell you, my mom and dad continue to play bridge in their new senior community. They have not joined a bridge club. They often substitute. My mom keeps busy doing the substitution, and she always seems to take home the pennies or nickels that they all bet on.
So I think my parents also played bridge with Huie and Lucy. They were in the bridge club together. But one of the most remarkable things about him was his ability to bridge generations. So my parents were their friends, and I felt like I was their friend also. I came here to sing lessons, and reacquainted myself with them after I got ordained. So he was really open to people of all ages and really respectful. So.
Thank you, Libby. So many of you don't know, but Libby and I are a different generation, of course, than my parents. But Libby and I first met in preschool. Nursery school in Eastdale.
Huie and I go back to 1959, when I returned to the University of Rhode Island and met Huie cracking crabs on his kitchen table covered with newspaper, and the friendship continued thereon. Ever since this celebration of his life was announced, I've been thinking hard about Huie over all these years. What was so special about Huie? And I thought, Huie never had an enemy. Step down the level, no one ever said anything adverse or criticism about Huie. Well, that didn't quite answer at all. So I got psychological about it. It's not my bag at all. But maybe Huie knew who he was. No, that doesn't quite do it either. Lucy had a big factor in here. Lucy worked with the Graduate School of Oceanography in those days. She got it straightened out on data management. That does it in part. But there was something special about Huie that defies description. And that's the way I like to remember him. And I think this celebration of his life is tremendously important.
My name is Shimizu, and our family joined this church in 1969. And first thing we felt was warmth by this Dr. Chang and his family, and we had a wonderful time. One thing I think people didn't mention about Huie was a great cook, you know, and we had annual, Chinese dinner, St. Augustine. That was very famous, and I was amazed, that here's this professor who is cooking all this huge amount of Chinese food so quickly and beautifully, and also this we had Mr. and Mrs. Ainsworth, George Ainsworth, and he was always talking about how, this Huie recovered this big fish head and made a wonderful dinner out of it. So that fish, they used to throw away, but then Huie said, "Where's the head?" He went to the dump and picked up. George and Rose and was always talking about it. He went to the dump and picked it up. So that's a good memory we have. And he was wonderful. And talking with him, we found out that we had some common friends. He graduated from the St. John University in Shanghai. That was, at that time, #1 school in Shanghai. And his math teacher was Mr. Tucker, which is the Tucker family is a very famous Episcopal church, clergies. And so we had this Mr. Tucker's niece, is a good friend of ours, and so we talked about it, and we talked about Shanghai in that days, and that was really, interesting. So, thank you.
Okay, we can take about one more.
My name is Mariana Richardson. My husband and I have been members of St. Augustine's for over 30 years, and every Sunday Huie was here. I love how Perry said what a special man he was. He just was. But the thing I want to say is, even though I've known him for over 30 years, every single time Huie saw me, a big, broad grin would spread on his face. He'd say, "Oh, Mariana," and for that moment, I felt special too. I felt like I had made his day just because he got to see me. And I'm sure he was that way with everybody.
Now I'm going to turn it over